Gazan officials say Israel's airstrikes have killed more than 2,300 people. Hamas's terror attacks claimed the lives of over 1,300 Israelis. The United States has sent a second aircraft carrier to the eastern Mediterranean to support Israel, and we know Israel's communications minister wants Al Jazeera's local bureau to be shut down, accusing the Qatar-based news channel of incitement. Let's get more now on the military situation with Peter Lerner, a spokesperson for the Israeli Defense Forces. Welcome. With this major ground offensive looming, can you tell us what the IDF strategy is here?
Thank you, Claire. Yes, indeed. We are currently in the action of destroying Hamas's capability to ever conduct a massacre against our people ever again. The activities include air strikes against Hamas's infrastructure as an organization, its leaders who orchestrated the mastermind Yahya Sinwar, who instructed and utilized the whole system of Hamas in order to conduct this attack. And of course, the ground terrorists, the people that breached the attack, breached the fence, breached the perimeter and penetrated our border. Yes. Just last night, we killed Bilal el-Qidra, a Nukhba commando leader of Hamas. We killed him, and he's a commander from the Khan Yunis area. He was actually involved in the attack, the butchering of people in Kibbutz Nirim. So we are very determined to destroy Hamas's capability, to remove that threat from the people of Israel.
Yeah, just to be clear, Hamas itself has not yet confirmed those deaths. I'm curious how concerned the IDF is that here it is walking into a trap that could lead to many more Israeli deaths. Do you not think that a military response here is exactly what Hamas wants?
That's a very interesting question. And actually, I'd say that's the first time I've been asked this over the last couple of days. You know, what are the alternatives? The alternatives are Hamas continue to butcher babies in their bedrooms. Our government has instructed the IDF to remove the threat of Hamas, to remove them from governing Gaza as a staging ground against our people. And that is what we intend to do. We will take the necessary steps in order to protect our people and destroy Hamas's capabilities. And I would say they need to be banished from the realm of this existence.
We will be fighting in the Gaza Strip up against this extensive tunnel network that Hamas has, and it surely will mean many more deaths for Israelis. Is this a risk? Does this make sense as a risk to take?
So the Israel Defense Forces, that is our mission. We have to take the necessary steps, and as a soldier, you do that. Also, at the potential of sacrificing yourself for the country to defend the civilians. You know, we on October 7th, we failed the people of Israel as our border was penetrated. We can't let that happen again, and that is why there needs to be a change of system in Gaza. And I would say that, you know, when Hamas penetrated our border and butchered over 1,300 people in their ruthless attack, they broke the rules of the game, and now we are changing the game.
Now, the IDF, let's turn to the people who are living in Gaza. The IDF has said it has offered safe passage for people from the northern part of Gaza to escape from expected Israeli strikes. Yet we have both the United Nations and aid groups pleading for you to reverse your evacuation, saying that it is not only impossible, but it is even a death sentence for the vulnerable. How is an evacuation of more than 1 million people under circumstances like this safe and in compliance with international law?
Absolutely. We operate within the realm of the laws of armed conflict. Our instruction to the people of Gaza to move south is a humanitarian effort in order to keep them out of harm's way. It's our action to differentiate the terrorists and non-combatants. You know, the people of Gaza, they are not our enemy, but Hamas that have utilized all of the civilian infrastructure. They put drones with explosives on the rooftops of houses. They put rockets in the basements of high-rise buildings. They utilize command and control positions out of public infrastructure. They do it all out of a sense that they can jeopardize the people of Gaza without having to pay a price. Now, the people of Gaza need to move, and they are listening to us. I'm very glad that they're listening to us, because what we've seen over the last few days is Hamas trying to prevent people from evacuating from what is going to be our conflict zone, our ground of operations, because they want to prevent us from rooting them out. That is our role at the moment. We've seen them erect physical barriers. Yesterday it was widely reported, I think on Deutsche Welle as well, about a convoy that was supposedly attacked by the IDF. I can tell you now, the IDF
with 70 civilians dead. That was from Hamas.
And again, and this was if you listen to what Hamas is saying, you're obviously being fooled, because our investigation has come to the conclusion there was no IDF action in that area. The images suggest that the explosion came from beneath, not from above. And we intend to expose the images that we have from this incident that actually prove that. So
there are also eyewitness accounts. It is not just the claim from Hamas. We've heard from aid agencies that there were other witnesses who claimed to see this. I want to come to a point that you've made. Sorry, if I may, I want to come to a point that you made just earlier. The Israeli military is one of the most advanced. It's one of the best funded in the world. And I'm wondering if you are looking at leveling whole parts of Gaza, buildings, to reach Hamas while there are civilians present. Is this a proportionate response to Hamas's capabilities?
Our military operations are based on the military necessity, the proportionality, and the mission itself, and absolutely within the realm of the laws of armed conflict. There is no goal to flatten Gaza. That is absolutely outrageous. Our goal is to destroy Hamas's infrastructure. Now, yes, they have located themselves within the civilian arena. As I pointed out, they have no regard for human life. That is exactly what they're doing. But they cannot be permitted to do it at the expense of Israeli babies being butchered in their bedrooms.
But if Hamas is so embedded among the civilian population, how will it be possible to destroy their infrastructure without also leveling Gaza?
We are targeting their leaders, we're targeting their terrorists, we're targeting their command and control positions. And yes, indeed, we're telling, and this is precisely the reason we're telling people, you have to head south from Gaza City to beyond Wadi Gaza, for your own well-being. Now, this is the current situation. Unfortunately, this was a war that Hamas chose as a strategy. It wasn't one freak account of a small group of terrorists that has happened in the past, these types of events. It was a strategy. They penetrated, they opened and launched a war on Israel. They killed 1,300 people in one day. And
it must be condemned outright. There's no question that this was a disgusting attack.
Funerals in Israel taking place today. 200 funerals because of their butchery. Can never, ever happen again.
And I'm so sorry. I cannot imagine the suffering that Israel has gone through and is continuing to go through with that. There's no question. But I just want to come back to you in your position with the IDF. You can talk to me here about Israel's response, not what Hamas has done. And just one more question to you. For the people who are heeding your order to go from northern Gaza to the south, what guarantees can you make that they are going to be safe there in the south?
Our operations are primarily targeting Hamas and their activities, their leaders, from Yahya Sinwar, the mastermind of the massacre, who has subordinated the entire organization to the needs of terrorism, who has utilized all of the tools of governing Gaza to empower the butchers of Kibbutz Be'eri, the butchers of the party Nir Re'im, the people that came in and took people out of Kfar Aza. This is the organization that needs to be removed. The people of Gaza are not our target. We will do what we can within the realm of the laws of armed conflict to limit civilian casualties. Your report itself, he told you in your report that you just broadcasted that he received a text message. A military announced that they're coming. You need to evacuate your area in a text message to a Palestinian living in an area.
I must here jump in and just make the case for the people who receive those messages but don't have the means to leave. The elderly, the sick, those who don't have transportation to organize fleeing to an already very densely populated part of southern Gaza. This is the criticism we've been hearing from aid organizations. I think we can leave it there. Yeah. Thank you so much. That is Peter Lerner, the spokesperson for the Israeli Defense Forces. We really appreciate you taking the time to speak with us on DW News.
Thank you, Claire.
And we can speak to DW senior international correspondent Fanny Fachar in Jerusalem for more. Fanny, the Israeli military today saying that there are 126 people being held hostage in Gaza. It's almost impossible to imagine what families in Israel are going through, not knowing what has happened to these people, to their loved ones. What have you been hearing there?
The fact that these families are going through a very difficult time is really an understatement. In fact, if you listen, first of all, to the number that you just mentioned, the 126, and even that number keeps changing. Really, we've been hearing any number now here between 100 and 150 since the Hamas militants attacked Israel on October 7th and killed, official number, they killed at least 1,300 people in Israel and abducted more than 100 people. And the question really is, what is happening to them? In fact, the people who took to the street yesterday in Tel Aviv protesting because they say they want to make sure that, of course, they will see their relatives alive. And there are a lot of mixed voices within these protests. People who say there has to be a very strong response by Israel, but then also their relatives who say, no, it cannot be that there's a strong response in the sense that there's a ground offensive, because they are concerned for their relatives that they will be killed as well. Because one has to imagine the hideouts of the militants, the Hamas militants in Gaza, is not just a vast labyrinth underground, but also they are hiding in residential buildings. So it's not as black and white as it may appear militarily, that the Israeli military goes in and can really localize, to say so, the Hamas militants without causing casualties. In fact, that's also the concern, not just by human rights organizations, but pretty much everyone who has followed the history, the Gaza wars, previous Gaza wars in the past. Just pointing out there, the Gaza war in 2014, the last major ground offensive by Israeli forces. Back then, more than 2,000 people have been killed in Gaza Strip, most of them were Palestinians. So with that in mind, people are increasingly worried just what is happening to their relatives, whether there will be any negotiation, but with whom exactly. Israel does not want to negotiate with the terrorist organization. So who can play that part to somehow make sure that those people who are going through hell right now have a way to get out safely and return to Israel?
So concerns for people in Gaza, concerns for the hostages. Can you tell us more about what people there in Jerusalem are making of Israel's expected ground offensive into Gaza and what this will mean for them?
There are a lot of questions here, actually, when it comes to that ground offensive, and everybody's speaking about this really for days now. First of all, when is it going to happen? And once it starts, how long it's going to last? What will it mean for the Palestinian people in Gaza Strip who have been ordered to leave from the northern part of Gaza Strip to the south? How is that even possible to do so without any humanitarian consequences? The UN has very much criticized Israel for that order. It's impossible to carry it out without any casualties, they say. And at the same time, once again, there are very, very mixed reactions here in Israel when it comes to this question. Really, what is the answer to the terror attack and the massive casualties here in Israel more than a week ago when this attack was carried out? What should the Israeli government do? Even though people are very much united here in Israel when it comes to their sorrow, and also just simply they do not understand how was it even possible that the Hamas militants could strike? Why wasn't the Israeli government protecting them? So there's a mix of people are angry, but there's also this feeling of there must be some sort of revenge, while at the same time people are also raising the question with regard to the moral responsibility of Israel towards the Palestinian people. Why they have to pay the price is the question I'm getting very often lately. Why the Palestinian people in Gaza Strip are the ones who are going to pay the price for the action that was carried out by Hamas militants.
Fanny, thank you so much for sharing some insights from your reporting. That is Fanny Fachar in Jerusalem for us. And Israeli officials say a missile strike from southern Lebanon has killed at least one civilian in northern Israel. Pro-Iranian Hezbollah militants have claimed responsibility for the strikes. The Israeli military said it responded with artillery fire and also announced the closure of the area near the border. Cross-border fire has intensified since last Sunday. Authorities say more than 10 people in Lebanon and at least 2 in Israel have been killed.